how much damage has Ukraine done to refining capacity for Russia?
Pretty substantial. At this point, it's about 58 different facilities that have been struck. It's about 40% of the oil refining capacity of Russia that's been destroyed. Overall, Russia today is having shortages of gasoline and diesel throughout the entire country, most especially in the western parts, and especially in the occupied territories such as Crimea. So today, Russia is in pretty bad shape. It is a country that is only known for exporting oil, but today it is not a country that even has sufficient gasoline for its own population.
40% is significant, right? What is that doing more broadly to the Russian economy at the present time?
Well, the Russian economy is in pretty dire stakes. I mean, today the Russian economy is in a situation where it faces high inflation. It faces a central bank that's under control of the Kremlin, so it's not operating independently. So it's not making fiscally wise decisions for the future debt ownership of the state. But also, we look at the banking sector. The banking sector is really low on liquidity. Common citizens are unable to take out the cash they have in banks. And these are all indicative of the fact that there is some serious problems. About 48%, 50% of Russians that are currently employed are looking for a second job because their job does not cover their basic cost. So when you have about half the population looking for a second job, that's usually pretty bad.
At what point, this is pure speculation, but what point does all that equate to, the citizens saying enough's enough, let's get Putin out of here?
Well, they did have protests 2 days ago in St. Petersburg, which is very unusual. There was, it's probably better to call them a group of young people, a very large group, hundreds of people, singing anti-war songs and anti-government songs, and also playing the song from Swan Lake. As you recall, the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991 during the coup. Swan Lake was played on national television across all of the Soviet Union. And the fact that that's coming back up as being a cultural reference is probably not a good sign for the Kremlin.
Okay. Now, have you heard anything about Putin's attitude, treatment, actions against the oligarchs?
So there have been some recent arrests of the oligarchs. There's also been the seizure of their assets. It's usually perceived to be more about the FSB, which is the security service of Russia, trying to consolidate the amount of assets that there are in the country. There's not a lot of money going around these days, so they got to get money where they can. So they're trying to squeeze the liquidity out of those oligarchs who are still left to remain standing.
Well, am I wrong in saying, look, an important part of Putin's power base has been the oligarchs, his ability to keep them on side in part by letting them do well?
Sure, absolutely. So the oligarchs, I would always argue that Vladimir Putin ultimately was somebody who was sort of like a cornerstone that kept the oligarchical base happy. He was the one who kept it all together. And today, though, as time passes, he has become more of a keystone. It all depends on him. And today, that keystone is becoming rubbed away. And those oligarchs are getting closer and closer to clashing. We see that the FSB is taking sides, especially against oligarchs who are closer to the military. There's been 17 Russian generals arrested in the past 3 years. 15 of those generals are those who come from the background of logistics or from acquisitions. Why those are important are those are the ones that deal with finance. Now, in any given military, that's probably what, I don't know, 25, 30% of the military is someone that works in logistics. But in the fact of Russia, the fact that 15 out of 17 of those arrested are those that are coming from the background is also a sign that the FSB is trying to milk as much money out of them as they can.
Okay. Yeah. And to what degree have you heard about over the past, let's say, just again, 3.5 years, 3 years, uh, concerns over corruption within the military, contracts, et cetera?
Well, corruption is, I mean, a significant problem in Russia, but that's the whole joke about it, though, is that everybody in the FSB understands that you do not make general in the Russian military unless you're engaged in corruption. And you're not going to be promoted because, I mean, truthfully, your senior officer is not going to sign off on being promoted unless you help him cover up the corruption. The reason you got the promotion is because you're helping him in the business. Why does he need you if you're not going to help in the business? Or you're going to report on him, you're going to squeal on him? Why would he possibly want to recommend you? And so when you're choosing who goes up the ranks below you, it's also people who helped you engage in corruption. So they all understand that everybody's engaged in corruption. The only question at this point is, why are they going after the people that they are? If they have information about everybody, why are they selectively choosing who's prosecuted? But most importantly is probably the general who just got arrested who was in charge of promotions. Why that general is so important is that he would be the one that has all the compromising material about everybody else and what they did or paid in order to get promoted, to get the assignments that they wanted in the military. He would have his little black ledger of exactly who it was that was engaged in corruption with him. So the fact they went for him is something that sort of shows that the FSB now has quite a significant amount of compromising material about other military officers.
Uh, um, to what degree have they been successful at, this is going to sound strange, but at hiding the war from the urban centers? I'm thinking in particular St. Peter, Moscow, et cetera. But and by that I mean, to what degree have the problems, the fuel shortages and other issues, been pushed out to the outer regions in an effort to keep the main population centers happy?
Well, it's reached the main centers as well. I mean, the fuel outages are not just limited to the regions, it's also reached the major cities. That being said, I mean, gasoline prices have increased about 50% in the past 3 or 4 months. There's some significant problems. Now, within Russia itself, historically, the weakest base for Vladimir Putin was Moscow, followed by St. Petersburg. That is his weakest support area. So the fact that we're seeing big
Why,
problems in the
why is that,
regions,
Jason? I can ask, why is that? You know?
urban elites, liberal, higher education level, more well-traveled, more international. They have a greater grasp of what's going on outside the country. People that live in the regions tend to be poor. Keep in mind, the average Russian makes about $900 a month. Pensions are a few hundred. Those people are not, they don't have, smartphones. They're not scrolling the internet. They're watching state television, so the people out in the regions just receive propaganda and believe it. But they're also the ones that are the least important ones in the society. They lack agency totally. Whereas the ones in the capital, one, have capital, but secondly, they have social capital and the ability to create change or affect change. And so the fact that they understand what's going on and they're not happy with it is not very good for the regime.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.